I'm hanging out in Mendenhall, you know, reading a book, studying, whatever, and I looked up and he was there, and he was really cute, so I kind of looked at him like I was interested and gave him a little wave, and he came over, and we started talking, and found out that his name was Bill, and he was going to school too, and things just kind of went from there. What attracted me? Well, everything. He was good looking, funny, ambitious, and he was honest, and we had everything in common. It's kind of, you know, those goofy magical things, you know. I don't know. I only knew him for 2 days, and then I slept with him. I was actually really disappointed with myself. In the past, I had slept with 2 other people, but they were both in serious relationships, and I let myself go and slept with a guy I'd only known for 2 days. It was just so unlike me. I don't know what happened, but I did. So after that night, you know, I gave him my number and everything, and I expected him to call right away. I did one of those things where I was waiting by the phone all day, and the first day, you know, he didn't call, and I figured that's okay. Maybe he's busy. He's got class and work and everything. But then 2 days and 3 days, and he still hadn't called, and 3 days became a week, and then a week became 2, and then 3, and I still hadn't heard from him. And I kind of thought after that I was never going to hear from him again. It was a couple days before Thanksgiving, and he just randomly called me to see how I was, which I thought was kind of strange. But he asked if I was doing anything for Thanksgiving, and actually I was planning to stay here all by myself, and he asked if I wanted to go out of state with him and spend the holiday with his dad, which I thought was really sweet. You know, he didn't want me to spend the holiday alone, and that kind of made me fall for him all over again. It never really crossed my mind that Bill would, you know, cheat on me, because he came across as such a nice, honest guy. But then one day, one of my friends said that they had seen Bill in a restaurant with this girl, and, you know, it couldn't be his sister because he's an only child, so what else could I think but that he was seeing someone else? And that's when I asked him, and everything came out. And that just destroyed me. I couldn't believe that after all that we had been through together, he would just do something like that and not tell me or have the decency to break it off or anything. But yeah, that pretty much ended everything we had together. After that, I had a really hard time even getting out of bed, let alone going to class and getting all my schoolwork done. So I just couldn't do anything, and, well, I had to withdraw from school in the middle of the spring semester because my grades had gotten so bad. And I was so upset with myself. I mean, I had gone through so much before, and nothing had fazed me, and a little thing like a guy not returning my feelings shouldn't have made me mess up on my college career and possibly the rest of my life.
So I was at this party, and it was a pretty unique party because it was an applesauce wrestling party, and I mean, there's girls all over the place. I mean, there's a blow-up pool that's got girls just 3-4 inches of applesauce covering them. It's awesome. So I was at the party, and I bought a couple of cups for me and my friends, and I bought a couple of shots here and there, and I stuck the change in my front pocket. So watching girls wrestle in applesauce, I guess I had a couple too many. You know, you watch an entertainment like that, you don't really think about how many cups of beer, shots, Jello shots, anything that you're taking. I really got hammered. So I was walking back to my place in Tar River, which is a couple of blocks that way, when I was approached by a white Mazda 626, and the guy called me over there, and so I didn't think anything about it. I went up to him, and he said he wanted my cell phone, and I said, what? And the next thing I knew, I was surrounded by 5 pretty big guys, and they told me that they wanted my money. Funny thing about it is, these guys, they look like people I'd hang out with. They look just like normal, you know, well-dressed college students, and they didn't look like somebody that was going to rob me, so it took me off guard. You know, we get all these emails all the time, and you see about people getting robbed, about bad things happen, but it never really strikes home until it happens to you. And especially on First Street, because First Street's a main drag. It's a pretty busy street. You know, you wouldn't think it would happen on First Street, but it can, because it happened to me.
Sean and I dated for almost 2 years, and it was, for the most part, it was pretty good. The breakup began with me just falling out of just wanting to, you know, I just didn't feel the same way about Sean, so I broke up with him, and it was a bad breakup because, I mean, it was my first breakup, so I would, you know, I felt bad for him, and so it was hard on me, but I quickly got over it, but he did not get over it, and he did not accept my breakup, which was where the problem began. After we broke up, I knew things were getting bad because he would constantly call me, text message my phone, instant message, email. I had to change my screen name. I had to change my dorm number. I had to just block him off Facebook and MySpace, which, you know, he could log under another name and find me anyway. So it was still, even though I was trying to hide from him, he would still find ways to find me, like on the internet or the phone, and that's where it got scary. Sean would tailgate, and people would let him into the dorm, and he would be outside my door for hours, knocking. The incident that led me to go to the police was one Saturday night. He broke into the dorm again, and it was late, and I was half asleep, and he knocked on my door, and I don't recall why I opened it. I didn't see anyone, but I opened the door, and he burst in, and he was just like, "Oh my God, I need you, and I want you in my life, and I love you." And I said, "Sean, we need to break. This is over. This is silly." And he wouldn't leave, and I told him to leave, and so he wouldn't. So I punched him in the face, and then he threw me down onto the ground and held me, and I felt like I was suffocating, and I screamed, and then he got up and left because I guess my screaming scared him. And the next morning, I called the police to file a report. So I called the police, and they came over to my dorm, and he had left by then, and the police were in my room. You know, I was giving him my statement, and Sean calls me on my dorm number. I mean, he got my number after I changed it, and so I answered it, and it was him, and I gave it to the policeman who was sitting there, and the police officer said who he was and what he was doing, and Sean just hung up, which the police officer said was a big mistake. I did a lot of artistic projects, like I had earlier that month broken a mirror, and I made stuff out of that. So I just made elaborate projects that took a long time that helped me keep my mind off things. It took about 2 weeks after the police report for him to kind of calm down and leave me alone, because I kept calling the police every time he would, you know, he tried to give me an earring at one point. I called the police, and he tried to talk to me. He came up to me in the gym, and I told the police, because the police told me to tell them everything when he tries to contact me in any way, to tell the police, and so I did. The police went to his house and really got on his case, and I think that's when he stopped. He calmed down and left me alone. It affected me on an emotional level, because this was once someone that I truly loved, and to have him turn out to be completely on the other side, you know, I don't want to say psycho, but, you know, just crazy. It just kind of, you know, it kind of left me wondering about my judgment, whether I have good judgment. It affected my relationships, my view on relationships, because I was more cautious on what to look for, like the warning signs, because the more I analyzed Sean, yeah, he had some warning signs. I just